Hello, and in this video we will be thinking about discourse markers. So a very important part of especially spoken English. There are parts in written English, but we will really notice it in spoken English. So discourse markers are part of sociolinguistics. So if we think of the word social, so the study of language, how it functions in a society, the study of the interaction between linguistic and social variables sounds very grand and important, but actually it's just about how language works in a social situation. So for example, how are we polite? How are we demanding? Etc. Basically, how do we speak to each other in a social way using a language? So first, let's think about how language sounds. So strange kind of idea, but if we think about this English conversation, okay, so just take a moment and have a read of that. Okay, so just take it in. So the context here is a person is talking about how they met their partner. Okay, so we can see that it is in nice, neat sentences. So let's listen to how this sounds. So I'll actually play the audio. This is a real conversation, and this is taken from the excellent cracked.com podcast. Okay, so this is the real conversation, so please listen and read.
He would say nice things to me, and even before, but I just remember one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was dancing and he commented on how attractive I was. And from there, it intrigued me that he would make a comment like that, so I followed him down the hallway. And this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending.
Okay, so maybe sounds accurate, but does it sound natural? So we're thinking about when we are speaking, we are not speaking in sentences. We're not speaking in nice, neat sentences that starts with a capital letter and ends with a period. We are thinking spontaneously. We're thinking in thoughts. And so one result of that is that we're not thinking in nice, neat sentences. It's not, he would say nice things to me, period. When we're writing, we have more time to think, and so our ideas are a lot more discrete, a lot more separate, because in our minds we're thinking it starts with this word and ends with this word and a full stop or a period. However, writing versus speaking, it's actually quite different. So with speaking, because it's spontaneous, we are often linking together ideas. We're often connecting ideas as we are thinking of them. And also we're responding to the person's reaction. So from the look in their eyes, do they understand what I'm saying? Are they agreeing with me, disagreeing with me? So basically from people's responses, we are changing what we're saying in the moment. Maybe we're clarifying, we're making it clear what we're saying. So lots of things are happening in spontaneous speech. So discourse markers are words or phrases that mark different parts of communication. So some common ones are something like that, actually, like, and with all due respect. So for example, something like that, it can mark that you're saying, I don't mean exactly what I've just said, I'm talking in general terms. So for example, would you like to get pizza or something like that? Means pizza is not the only option. It's like, I'm just giving you an idea. So it's giving you a rough general idea of what I'm saying. So quite often these words don't mean exactly what they would mean in a dictionary. Like is a good example of that. Like has many, many uses as a discourse marker where it doesn't have a grammatical reason. So it's different to saying marmalade is like jam, where in that case it's serving a grammar purpose. But in a sentence like, and he was like annoyed, it's not saying A is like B. It's actually serving a different purpose. So let's look at some examples of what it is doing in a sentence. So we're going to look at the top three. So these are the most common of our discourse markers is well, you know, I mean. And these are things that you will hear. This is every day. This is absolute normal English conversation language. So let's look at an example where we say, well, I need to get going. So again, think about what is the word well doing in this sentence. What message is it communicating? And again, we're not thinking about what is it doing as a grammar, because we could delete well and it still has the same meaning. You could say, I need to get going. Kind of has the same meaning. So why are we adding well? Let's have another example. You should, stop drinking so much. Again, we could just say, you should stop drinking so much. So what is adding to this sentence? And I mean, we could just stay in and watch Netflix. The sentence is, we could just stay in and watch Netflix. But we're adding, I mean, to the beginning. So think, what is it doing for that sentence? What is it doing for the meaning? So again, these are creating They are marking, in fact, they are showing different parts of communication. So, for example, well, it's marking the end of a conversation or maybe even a change of subject. And if it's in the middle, like in our previous example, it's often softening a sentence. So it's lessening the impact. So maybe you are saying something which is uncomfortable or it's very strong, and you are uncomfortable saying it, so you are trying to reduce the strength of what you're saying. So before the most uncomfortable parts, you are putting It's like, you could, stop drinking so much. Well, is the stop drinking so much is the uncomfortable part. So to soften the strength of that, you are adding, How about sometimes it's just a filler? You're trying to think of what to say next. So instead of silence, which would be strange, we say, or like, just to stop the other person interrupting. We haven't finished our idea, we're just thinking, but we want some time to think about it. So you might say, So for example, I went into the city and, I was looking for somewhere, blah, blah, blah. Is just kind of keeping my turn in the conversation. It's stopping the other person thinking that I have finished, so therefore they can just start speaking. It's just keeping my turn in the conversation. And this is called holding the floor, but basically means keeping your turn in the conversation. And so it could be, for example, offering additional ideas. It could be lessening the strengths of a suggestion if it's maybe an unpopular or a risky opinion. So if we use the example of drinking from before, it's maybe a strong opinion. So you might say, you could, stop drinking. And again, it's a good example where it's not doing anything for the grammar, separating a sentence and putting but socially it's sending a message of kind of get ready, prepare yourself, I am going to say something that you might not like. So socially it's kind of sending a message, we're indicating to a person to do something, like get ready or don't speak yet. So this is the social part of it, using these things. But it's a part of everyday language. And every language has discourse markers. So, for example, some Korean discourse markers. So you get to enjoy my Korean pronunciation. So, 혹시. Well, think about what that is doing in a sentence. Think about, so if we think of this word and what it is doing in the communication, then literally it means by any chance, but what it is doing is reducing the impact and kind of preparing the person that you're going to ask for something or you're going to suggest something. So if the person hears, well, by any chance, it's marking that you're going to ask them for something. So this is a discourse marker. It's marking that you are requesting or suggesting. So it's preparing the other person. Here's another one. So, for example, 물 좀 주세요. It's the actual word, 좀. It does mean a little, but in this case, it's actually reducing the strength of the demand. Okay, making it sound a little bit more polite. So I'm not saying it doesn't change the meaning exactly, but it's making it seem polite, more polite than just saying water, please. So these are discourse markers, right? They are signaling to the person listening something social, something about the conversation. So it's not about changing a tense or changing the grammar of the interaction, but it is signaling to the person you're speaking to or writing to some kind of social thing. So are you requesting something? Are you making it more polite? Are you keeping your turn in the conversation? So lots of things are actually shown by these little words, like well, you know, I mean, like, I think, and I guess. And so you'll notice when they're actually used in a conversation, the vowels are reduced. So it's not you know, I mean, I think, I guess. That I is actually reduced down and you is reduced. So it's not you know, it's you know, yeah. It's not I think, it's I think. So it's kind of a schwa sound, right? It's not I guess, it's I guess. I guess. So because these are just included into the sentence. So the purpose is to lessen or soften the impact of a statement. Similar words might be just. Like you can just stop asking. So yeah, just there, it's not actually changing the meaning. It's just, there it is again. It's reducing the strength. So saying it's kind of late. And again, that OF, that of, it's reduced, kinda. It's kinda late. What you're saying is it's late, but you are signaling that, or you're softening the impact. You don't want someone to be offended. So connecting or signaling meaning. For example, to be honest, you're preparing the other person that, okay, I am going to say something and you might not like it. Or I'm going to say something and you definitely won't like it. So to be honest, in a social situation, it's indicating you might not like what I'm going to say. It's like, not exactly what I wanted. So again, we're kind of connecting our ideas, or in this case, like holding the floor. It's keeping your turn in the conversation. So while the person thinks about saying not what I wanted, they're kind of adding in these discourse markers to stop the other person interrupting. So instead of it's not exactly what I wanted, somebody could interrupt at that point before you've finished. So it's like, not exactly what I wanted. You're kind of just holding your turn in the conversation. So if we go back to our original conversation that we heard before, but think about how discourse markers change these questions. So, do you play any sports? Do you play any sports or something like that? Have you ever broken a bone? Have you ever broken a bone or anything like that? Do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to watch a movie or something? So I think it's changing the options that someone has to answer the question. It's saying, okay, maybe you don't play sports, but basically physical activity things that you like. So maybe you don't play sports, but you like cycling. Yeah, or you just like rock climbing. Okay, not really a sport because it's not competitive, but it gives you options, or it gives the person answering options. The question is not only about sport, or have you ever broken a bone? No. Have you ever broken a bone or anything like that? Well, I didn't break it, but I sprained my wrist. So I had to have a bandage on my wrist for a week. So it's a tool that we use to kind of allow a conversation to continue, because it's not limiting us to only the options that you're given. So do you want to watch a movie or something? You're basically just saying, do you want to do something fun, basically? But the question, do you want to watch a movie, kind of limits you only to movies. So in this way, discourse markers are really important to social interactions, to conversations, because we are signaling to somebody what we mean, or to give us time, or to not interrupt us, or we're signaling you might not like what I'm going to say, like frankly speaking, or to be honest. You are signaling changing subject. So for example, blah 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 blah, then like, oh, by the way, you are signaling that you're changing subject. So conversations and even writing would be very different without these discourse markers. So they are an essential part of communication. So let's go back to the phone conversation that we listened to at the beginning. So again, this is a real person. This is not an actor. This was not written or scripted. This is spontaneous speech. So she's talking about how she met her partner. Okay, so again, let's look at how this is written at the moment. Okay, so let's listen to it one more time.
He would say nice things to me, and even before, but I just remember one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was dancing and he commented on how attractive I was. And from there, it intrigued me that he would make a comment like that, so I followed him down the hallway. And this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending.
Okay, now that was an edited version of the conversation. So let's listen to how she actually spoke at the time and try and notice all the little extra parts that are not included in the written version that you can see right now. So listen again and just listen carefully for all the differences, all the extra discourse markers that were missing from the first version?
I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending.
All right. So hopefully you could hear there was quite a big difference there from the first version to the second version. The second version definitely sounds more natural. You can hear that she is affecting the message that she's sending. She's thinking about what she's saying next. She's considering how it sounds to the listener. So I've added in some of the discourse markers that she says in purple. So like, stuff like that. I mean, like, or something, sorta, I mean. So this time, listen and try and listen carefully for what are the 6 discourse markers in these places. So I will play a few times and try and listen. What are those missing discourse markers?
I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending.
I'll play another 2 times just for now, and then I'll play some more at the end if you need it. So one more time.
I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending. I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending.
So why are discourse markers important in social interactions? Well, it's a natural part of speech. It's a part of spontaneous speech. When someone is not planning what they're saying, we're going to use discourse markers. So even if you personally do not use discourse markers, you will definitely hear discourse markers. So in that way, it's very important to have an understanding of what they mean, what is the function of each thing. Otherwise, it can get very confusing if you are trying to understand it as a grammar. So they signal to the person listening what you are going to say. For example, if you start a sentence with "look," then, well, we know that you are going to say something quite strong, something quite honest. You are perhaps not going to use polite language to say it. So this is signaling to the person that I am going to say something strong. I'm going to say something very honest, so please get ready. It also signals something like you haven't finished speaking. So you are still trying to finish your idea. You don't have the words just yet. So something like, you know. You put it in the middle of a sentence and it stops a person interrupting you. You are holding the floor. So I wanted to say, sorry, but in that case, you're stopping a person interrupting you. We can connect speech as you are thinking of what to say. So, for example, like. And he was like asking me what to do, and I told him I didn't want to. So we are actually connecting our ideas together. So like has no grammar meaning, but it's just a word which is connecting together our ideas. It can soften, it can reduce the strength of what you are saying. So for example, it's kind of bad. What you are saying is, it is bad. But what you say is, it's kind of bad. It's sort of bad. And it makes something more polite. So for example, sorry, could you pass the salt? Now, in this case, sorry does not mean I apologize. What it's doing is showing I'm going to ask a favor. I'm going to ask you to do something for me. So, sorry, could you turn the volume down a little bit? You're not really apologizing. What you're saying is, I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to request something. So, phrasal verbs are very, very useful. They are vital to spontaneous speech. They are used in writing as well, but they are especially common in speaking because it tends to be more spontaneous, more unplanned than writing. If we do not speak using these discourse markers, we are losing a big part of the social interaction. We're losing a big part of the human part of communicating. So speaking in perfect grammar, that's okay, but you can sound more like a robot programmed to speak English. Whereas adding in these discourse markers really is the kind of next level communication technique. And what I'd encourage is go on YouTube and find some spontaneous, unplanned speech. So not a drama, not a movie. Find something where two people are speaking to each other unplanned, and just notice how often they use these discourse markers, how often they are connecting speech, they are reducing the strength. You'll notice how common it is. Okay, so for the last part of this, I will just play the audio one more time just to give you a final chance. So what are the 6 discourse markers that are missing from this part? If you do not need this, that's fine. If you do, you can just listen to it and try and identify the missing 6 discourse markers. Okay, so I will play 4 times. All right, thanks a lot. That was Discourse Markers.
I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending. I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending. I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending. I mean, he would like say nice things to me and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, even before, but I just remember like one time I was sitting in the break room and he came in and I was like dancing or something and he like commented on how attractive I was, I think. And from there, I guess it sort of intrigued me that he would make a comment like that. So I followed him down the hallway. And I mean, this was a man that was 35 years older than me. So he was in his late 40s when it started and close to 60, I think, by the time that it was ending.